Hi everybody, it's Tom from Vehicle Visionary. Here is a video I've been trying to pull off based on a request for a while. The 2024 Honda HR-V against the 2024 Buick Envista. Now there are some obvious differences you're going to see in the exterior and the interior, but it will be very interesting to see which one everybody favors compared to one another. Obviously, the Envista is really brand new for 2024. So we're going to see the virtual cockpit, which is very nice, a full 19 inches worth of screen, but you're gonna have one big difference right off the bat here. The HR-V comes standard with front wheel drive, but all wheel drive is available. The Envista only offers front wheel drive. Let's see a little bit more about what these models have as far as their comparison between what may be alike and what may be different. If I was to run a poll and say, which one of these models do you think has the higher starting price? I think most people would choose the Buick just because it's a Buick. But that's actually not the case. Its base price is $22,400 compared to $24,100 for the HR-V. Looking from the front, both have a nice look. They look sleek, they look sporty. You'll obviously see a big difference in the overall design, as with the Envista, you're going to have the turn signal housing and the daytime running lights all on the top area right up here. Here's where your headlight is located. And with the HR-V, all of that is one housing, a little bit of a different design, but still looks very nice, still looks very modern, no matter what the situation is. The grille, a little bit bigger. If you buy a vehicle because it has a bigger grille, well, you're going to go with the Envista. Smaller grille with the HR-V. Again, not a big deal, I don't think. And by the way, sport trim level here on the HR-V, I'll leave pricing information for you and links to these vehicles for the two different dealerships where I borrowed them from in the description of the video. You will also find heated power adjustable door mirrors on both models. Turn signal indicators will be built in. This Avenir obviously is the top trim level. We're going to have the turn signal indicator right there. Now these are heated power adjustable but manually folding on both models. And because I've had people ask me, how do you fold those side view mirrors manually? I actually have had people ask me that before in the past. And if you look at them from this angle, you can see that the HR-V has a little bit higher roof line. It even sits a little bit higher. Maybe better for driving in snow? Well, it depends on how much you get. The big difference is going to be seen in the design of this rear area right here with the rear roof line and the rear window. We'll have the nice rear roof spoiler here, gives it a nice look back here, and a rear window wiper on the HR-V. Nice large tail lights, everything, well, looks pretty good, I'd say. It looks modern. Then you'll have the exhaust down there, the exhaust pipe, exhaust outlet, whatever you want to call that in that area. Now you won't see the exhaust coming out back here, a little bit more of a clean look. Some might like that, some might not. But with this sloping rear window, you'll notice there is no rear window wiper. Supposedly, it's not necessary. I haven't done any experiments to find out, but maybe some of you have driven one of these Envistas and know, well, maybe what the difference is. Is it easy to see out of when you get a heavy downpour? But one way or another, you have the sport back look here that definitely gives it a very sporty and, well, kind of almost a high-end look. But I don't think that that is to put down the overall design here of the HR-V, because it may not have the same slope and look to it, but what it does do is still give it a nice, sporty, modern look. Now, another area where you're going to find some big differences is the powertrain and the drivetrain. Let's talk about each one. When it comes to the engine and transmission in both models, you have one choice, even though they're different from one another, but the only choice with the HR-V, the 2-liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder, it makes 158 horsepower, 138 pounds-feet of torque. It is mated to a CVT or continuously variable transmission. I think it's a very well-behaved CVT. How about those all-important MPGs? 26 city, 32 highway, 28 combined, and 3.6 gallons of gas. That's what you might get for every 100 miles driven. There are a lot of variables that go into obtaining something like that, or achieving, I should say, something like that. So what is the difference here? Again, the singular engine and transmission offering, but there is a difference here. This is the 1.2 liter 4-cylinder engine. It makes 137 horsepower and 162 pounds-feet of torque. A good bit more torque than the HR-V, less horsepower. But one big difference here is going to be the fact that it has a 6-speed automatic transmission. Again, the only transmission offering. But if you don't like the CVTs, well, you might look in favor of the Envista. 28 miles per gallon city, 32 highway, 30 combined, and in this case, 3.3 gallons of gas is what you might get in the right conditions. I don't know what that would be per every 100 miles driven, but that's what's on the sticker, so that's what I wanted to share with you. And let's take a look into the rear cargo areas of each model. On the Avenir top trim level here, we will have a power lift gate, and we'll open the lift gate here that is manual, but you can see that opens very fast, actually faster than what we have on the Avenir. So obviously, one of these is going to have more cargo space than the other. I think you know which one it is. In the case of the HR-V, 24.4 to 55.1 cubic feet of cargo capacity, a little bit of space behind the fender wells right here, also a 12-volt power outlet. You'll have the lighting here within the interior. And when we maximize cargo capacity, here's what we're going to do. We're just going to come right here. I know a lot of you probably know this, but we're going to lower the seats and just show you how that works on each model. You probably already know that, but I know one thing that a lot of you like to see is maximized cargo capacity. So there's what it looks like with both seats folded flat. And I did have to move the passenger seat up just a little bit. That's why you had that little delay right there. Now, one thing that is also good here, if you look underneath the floor in each model, let's see if I can do this one-handed. Over here, you're going to find on the HR-V, there it is, the spare tire. And we'll lift the floor up here on the Envista. Guess what? A spare tire here as well. So for those of you who are saying, I dread a vehicle with a tire repair kit, no worries where that's concerned, at least on these two vehicles. And with the Envista, we're looking at 20.7 up to 42 cubic feet. So you do have a big difference, but with that sloping roof line, the sport back look back here, well, that's a bit of a given. The cargo cover that you have right here is very easily removable. You just take these off. Let's see if I can do this one-handed. I don't know if I can. You can take these off on both sides, and then you literally just take it off of what it's hinged to right there. It just comes right off, no big deal. So you can maximize your space that way. And once again, you fold the seats down the exact same way as what we did with the HR-V, so I'm not going to show you that again. But you can see what we have here with the seats folded flat. That's how you're going to maximize cargo capacity. And one thing that is also going to be different here with that power lift gate back here on the Envista, you won't have to worry about this with the HR-V because, well, that's always going to be easy to open. But let's just say you have an Envista and you can't get this rear tailgate or lift gate to open the power function at least. Here's what you need to come look at. I know a lot of people like to ask about this. I'm going to show you this. This works on all GM vehicles basically the same way that have the lift gate. Come right here and find this button. On the full-size SUVs, it's up there on the upper console. But here's what happens. You can set it to max, you can set it to 3/4, or you can set it to off. And that is what's going to make the difference where that is concerned. And how about the remotes? On the left is the HR-V remote. You can see everything that is there, including remote start. You can pop open the lift gate back here, and then you'll have to manually open it the rest of the way, but you have the power lift gate, obviously, on the Envista. And everything is the same. Also remote start right there. Now, one thing that is different is that you have the smart key with the walk-away feature with the HR-V. You'll walk up, you can actually touch the door handle when you have the remote on your person and unlock the interior. You can do the same basic thing with the Envista, except you use the button right here. That is called passive entry. And one other thing that I thought would be interesting concerning cargo capacity. Let's see here. This is the HR-V. I'm going to show you how flat the seats fold down between the two. So you can see the angle right here. There is just a little bit of an angle, but not too bad. But over here on the Envista, you will find a little bit more, at least it appears that way, of an angle on the seats when they're folded completely flat, although it looks like the seat back on the far side over there on the driver's side or left side is a little bit lower than what we have here on the passenger side. And we'll take a look into the back seat of the HR-V first through the passenger side rear door. Comfortable armrest. And I like that you have the jet black interior with some orange contrast stitching. It's not white, it's not black. It really kind of sets things apart. I like that. And you could use this area as a door bin. It's really more of a bottle holder, I think, than a door bin. And one thing you won't find on either model is that these seat backs recline. Neither does. So if you're curious about that, there's the answer to your question. You do have the rear seat pocket right here. And basically that's about all we had to talk about in this particular case. No rear air conditioning vents and no connectivity options anywhere, at least on this model. And this particular model does not come with a sunroof, although that is available on other trim levels. And I do apologize that I just have to use what's available in inventory. The Honda dealership and the Buick dealership only had one model each of these two particular vehicles, so I had to go with what was available. And I know we're looking at the top trim level here with the Envista, not with the HR-V, but I'm telling you a little bit of what's there along the way. Now, which one has the more comfortable armrest? I'd have to give that to the HR-V, but you do have a larger door bin back here. And while these seats don't recline, you do have the fold-down armrest with the cup holders built in. But once again, no rear air conditioning vents, but a couple of options for USB connectivity. And in this particular case, yes, you do have a sunroof, but not a panoramic sunroof. If the HR-V had a sunroof in it, it would also be conventional size. And one thing I did want to make sure I mentioned, because I forgot to mention it earlier in the video, both models come with blind spot monitoring built into the side view mirrors. And we'll see, well, obviously, you're going to have a larger door here with the front seat, driver and passenger seats, and the comfortable armrest once again, and definitely a larger door bin here in the front than we saw in the rear. If you would like to attempt a front wheel drive burnout with your HR-V, you can turn traction control off and see what happens. Now, if this was the highest trim level of the HR-V, you would find a power driver's seat. In this case, they're manually adjustable on the driver and passenger sides. But like I said earlier, I have to just go with what's available in inventory. So what greets you in the interior? That's what you get, a little bit of music and graphics with the HR-V. We'll hit our push button start right here and take a look at the dashboard. Digital, easy to use, easy to manage. It gives you a lot of good information. And one thing I did have somebody ask me about one time, I just wanted to share this because someone asked, can you get rid of that digital speedometer in the center of the instrument cluster? No, you can't. At least I haven't been able to find a way to do that. And you can hit the home button right here and go to whatever you want as far as that goes. No big deal there to go through different information on the vehicle. We can also hit that again and go through a lot more information. You're going to control the headlights here, the blinkers as well, the turn signals. I know some of you know what the headlights are, but not the turn signals. But over here, you can control the front and rear window wipers and your steering wheel mounted controls. A nice, comfortable steering wheel. And in this case, we're going to have a 7-inch touchscreen. A simple system to learn and use if you've never had anything like this before. So don't let that intimidate you or scare you away. Now, you will need a USB cable to connect here as far as pairing your smartphone. Not a big deal, but that's what you have. Single zone climate control. You do have heated seats, heated only. Yes, on September 22nd, or 23rd, I believe it is, 2023, we are headed for 96 degrees today. I will not turn those on again. Single zone climate control. You can see that you do have a USB option down there, your cup holders, and the conventional style shifter. Your driving mode, hill start assist, power parking brake, and brake hold mode. And the height of the center console, well, it could be used as an armrest, but you might have to lower the seats depending on your personal height. And here we go with space within. And I did say you have that drive mode selector, so let's take a look at what we have. There's normal. I'll show you the graphics that come up. You have Econ, Snow mode. Now you might notice there's no Sport mode. Well, actually there is, but in this particular case, you're going to go from the D to the S right there, and that is going to be your Sport mode. and real quick. And that flickering effect has to do with my camera. That's not actually happening on the screen. It's just one of those things that we deal with sometimes in these videos. But there's your backup camera, your rear view camera, multi-view. You have 3 different views that you can go through depending on what you need to or want to see. We'll hop into the interior of the Envista. You can see you don't actually hear anything, but you do see the graphics that come up on the screen, and that is the virtual cockpit. We'll talk a little more about that in just a bit. Real fast, I wanted to show you that you have your controls here for your windows and your power side view mirrors. Here is where you're going to control the headlights. Now you still have that turn signal lever thing here, or blinker lever, that we had on the HR-V as well, that some of you know how to use and some of you don't. And over here, we can't really say anything funny or sarcastic about it so much, but it's the lever to control the windshield wipers, but the windshield wipers only because, well, there obviously is no rear window wiper. And your steering wheel mounted controls, easy to figure out. I think you know what's there. Now, the virtual cockpit, this is a total of 19 inches of screen here. It's all one solid screen. You're going to have 8 inches for the instrument cluster as far as the driver's display goes. Very easy to use, very easy to figure out depending on what you may or may not want to do or need to know about, all that kind of stuff. Super simple. But you have 11 inches over here with the infotainment screen. Apple CarPlay and Android Auto here, wireless connectivity, all that good stuff. It's all here. You have only one screen, it looks like here, so you don't go through too much. You do have your vehicle settings here. It looks different than what we have with the HR-V, but I believe just as equally as simple to learn and use. You do have your rear seat reminder right there that you don't have to use. You can turn that on if you need to, and not just for the sake of knowing that there's kids back there, but who knows, you might have some important document or a briefcase or something like that that you need to remember before you go into an important meeting. So there are multiple options as to what you can do with that. And the rear view camera, what do we have there? Well, only one view in this particular case. The only adjustment you can make is to turn the trajectory lines on or off. And when it comes down to our climate control, again, single zone climate control here. We do have the heated seats. Same thing we had on the HR-V. We need ventilated seats on each model because, well, when it's this hot outside, no matter what time of year it is, that makes it challenging. And you do have a wireless charging pad right here and the 12-volt power outlet and USB right there. Also, your shifter right here, conventional style, just like we saw with the HR-V, a little bit different as far as its overall look and design goes, but the same functionality. One thing I will say is that the center console sits a little bit higher than it does in the HR-V. I don't know that that's that big of a deal to most people. Tell me what your thoughts are on that. I'm curious to know. About the same amount of space within that area, and like I said earlier, I think I showed you this, there is the sunroof, and then obviously it opens, it slides and tilts open. Okay, we're going to get out on the road for our test drives, and we'll begin with the HR-V. Unfortunately, I could only put you in the windshield because, well, there's no sunroof on this particular model. Remember, there is a sunroof available on, I believe the EXL trim level has a sunroof, so you can get that there. Now, one thing I'm curious to know, I'm going to pay more attention when we hop into the Envista after we finish this test drive, but which model has more road noise? Now, one of the big differences, obviously, the lack of a more conventional style transmission here with the HR-V. It has the CVT, and you might wonder, why a CVT? Well, supposedly they're better on gas mileage, and I would assume that has to do with the fact that the RPM doesn't fluctuate quite the same way as it does with a multi-gear transmission. I don't know for sure about that, so if you know, tell us down in the comments section. I haven't researched that. Maybe that's something I need to think about and do. But one thing I'll say, I'm just easing into the pedal, not doing anything crazy. Not that you really could do anything crazy with 158 horsepower, but one way or another, I had no trouble getting up to, well, I'm actually a little above the speed limit, and so no problems there. Very smooth acceleration where that is concerned. But one of the differences is going to be what the engine sounds like, and leave it to good old Shreveport, Louisiana to fail to time the lights correctly. So we're guaranteed to have to stop again. That's not good for a test drive. But I will tell you this, the ride quality of the HR-V is enjoyable, it's comfortable, it's not going to just absolutely destroy you and beat you to death. Maybe that's dependent on road surfaces. I haven't had this one out on a really nasty road necessarily, even though we have some of that around here, but overall my experiences with the HR-V has been enjoyable. I'm going to go into sport mode here and just see how much of a difference I can tell. To be honest with you, I can't tell a difference. Not at all. But some of you might want to know about that, and I can't really test any other driving modes beyond that, but I can test driving around a vehicle that's driving under the speed limit. So we're going to go right by it. I am not speeding. I'm a little bit above the speed limit, but not a lot. But not bad. I think they're doing about 20 under. But an overall enjoyable vehicle to drive, easy to see out of for the most part. You do have a little bit of a blind spot if you look to the rear of the vehicle, but you know what? No big deal, because obviously you have blind spot monitoring. So let's switch over to the Envista and see what the comparison is. Okay, does this look familiar? It's one of the same lights we stopped at earlier. Surprise, surprise. But you know, it's kind of interesting. I'm starting to accelerate, and wow, it actually is moving quicker than I would have expected, and probably a lot of other people would expect with the 1.2 liter 3-cylinder under the hood. One thing I didn't mention earlier, and you may have picked up on it and seen it, but it is a turbocharged motor. Now, when you have a turbocharged motor in a vehicle like this, you will potentially deal with some turbo lag. I don't think Buick has any technology to eliminate that, but the trick to that is you ease into the pedal. You don't just floor it, and you won't have as much trouble with that. You'll find that it actually accelerates better, even at higher speeds. Just something I've learned over the years of driving these different vehicles. So what exactly is it like to drive this Envista compared to the HR-V? Well, it feels a little tighter. Going down the road, the steering feels a little tighter. And I don't say that to put the HR-V down by any means. I don't think there's a huge difference between the two, but the steering just feels a little bit more firm. It feels a little more responsive. And so it's a very enjoyable vehicle to drive, that's for sure. The ride quality is good, as you might expect. And yes, I'm going to go in the right place here, because I know some of you will say something in the comment section if I don't. Well, maybe that's a good thing, because you might not leave a comment otherwise, but I'm in the correct place for my turn. Overall, it is an enjoyable vehicle to drive. The steering wheel itself is nice and comfortable. You do have the auto stop start feature here. I didn't show that in this model earlier, but it's right up here in front of the shifter. You can turn it off right there, which I do always recommend in every vehicle. And just like with the HR-V, if you look over your right shoulder, you're going to see that you have a blind spot there. But once again, not a big deal, because, well, you have blind spot monitoring built into the side view mirrors, and so you don't have to worry about it. And when we want to go around a vehicle that's not going quite fast enough, well, it's not that hard. I eased into the pedal. Now I need to slow back down. I don't know if you can see the speed on the speedometer. We're just going to coast back down a little bit, cruising along just fine, no problems at all. The seats themselves are nice and comfortable, which you have in both vehicles, but being that you have leather here, well, it's going to make a little bit of a difference. But again, trim level, so we have to remember those things. Which one do I think is best? Well, technology-wise, the Envista definitely looks more modern, has a little bit more of a modern feel to it. If you live in an area where it snows and you're saying, man, I need that all-wheel drive, well, obviously the HR-V is your only choice there. I don't know what will happen in the future. I don't know if enough potential buyers want all-wheel drive available for the Envista, or maybe Buick's just not going to ever offer that. I don't know, but they do have other models that fit into basically the same category as the Envista does that do offer all-wheel drive. The Encore GX comes to mind. You can get that with all-wheel drive. And one thing about the Encore GX, and I think I'm saying this by memory, but I think I'm right about this. When it comes to the Buicks, if you go with the front-wheel drive version, you get a CVT. If you go with the all-wheel drive version, you get a 6-speed automatic transmission, just like what we have here. I think I'm right about that. I may be wrong. But overall, one last thing I want to cover here in the Envista. Obviously, with the sport back styling of the vehicle back there with the rear window, a question may come up and say, how hard is it to see out of that? For me personally, not a big deal. I'm not having any trouble at all. The angle of the window is not really a problem because the window is so large. A lot of the time when you have a more of a steep slope like that on vehicles with rear windows like that, they're smaller windows. And so that really takes care of the situation altogether. So overall, great vehicles, both. Just curious to know which one you think is better. Okay, tell me what you think down in the comments section. Which model do you like most? Maybe one wins out over the other. Maybe there's a combination of features on each model. Tell me what you think. If you were on the lot right now and these were the only two vehicles available and you had to choose one, which one would you choose and why? Maybe you'd like to see some mixing and matching of functions, features, and options between the two. I'm always curious to know what you think. So I do want to say a special thanks to my friends at Morgan Buick GMC for loaning me the Envista and Holmes Honda for loaning me the HR-V. As I said earlier in the video, if you would like to know more about either vehicle, check out the links down in the description of the video. And I would also like to say a special thanks to each and every one of you for being kind enough to give me the opportunity to give you a vision for your next vehicle. If you haven't subscribed to the Vehicle Visionary YouTube channel just yet, please consider doing so. And if you would like to learn about additional vehicles you may wish to consider purchasing, check out the video that's on the screen right now, and I will see you there.